All right, I'm going to bring John in now. John, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, you should be able to start your video. You're a little soft.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Can you guys hear him all right? You're a little soft for me. Maybe I can't turn your volume up from here, but maybe it's good for everyone else and it's just weak for me.
How about now?
Okay, that's looking good. I love the mic. I think it's the same mic. The
Yeah.
Yeti blue. I got the blue Yeti.
I've got the black one.
Yeah, right on. Guys, we've heard a lot about data and storytelling through data, segmentation from data with Privy, how to sell more to our customers if we know what pages they've been on through customer service, et cetera, et cetera. John has a really cool new tool. This is one of the maybe tools of the month for me, the other one being Caro, and they'll be on later. He's a data scientist at heart, and he's going to make it so easy for you to understand certain things in your business. It's like stupid easy. It's like, why hasn't Shopify done this? It's just one plugin to Shopify specifically right now, right, John?
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you can see things like your retention rate over time, when customers purchase from you, and 100 other really valuable insights that help you change dynamics in your store, understand average order value and lifetime value better, and make smarter decisions. John, I will let you take it away, talk about the data side of a growing store and show us everything.
Perfect. Sounds good. So I'll just start sharing my screen. Let me pop over to my slides.
Typical founder desktop there.
Yeah. Okay. Can you see it now, Derek?
Looks great.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, thanks for the awesome intro, Derek. So my name is John Chow, and the topic today is around precision marketing and turning data insights into automated segmentation. We have an app called Segments on Shopify right now, and so you can find us there, and also look me up on Facebook and Twitter as well. So again, today the agenda is going to be around first talking about what is customer lifecycle and purchase likelihood. How do we actually cure that into the segmentation itself? Looking at simple customer lifetime value, a simple calculation and what it is and how can we actually optimize marketing using CLV. And then we'll go through a few examples of what I mean by precision lifecycle segmentation. Is maybe not a super popular term, but once you see it, it all makes sense. And then the goal really, I just hope everyone can take away is that, start using precision timing in your lifecycle marketing campaigns. If you're not looking at the timing between your automation flows, really should be, and contextualizing on the conversion risk as well as the CLV is going to help with conversions across the board. So a little bit about me, co-founder of Segments by Trestle. I spent 14 years doing data science. I was last at LinkedIn as a senior manager for data science there. I worked across retail demand forecasting, social media, predictive modeling, user segmentation, using Twitter data, Facebook likes, predicting like box office sales and what people like. And then also at LinkedIn, I was doing a lot of user targeting, looking at propensity to buy for the individual users, churn modeling, lookalike audience profiling, so to speak. So why do I do this? So I quit my job at LinkedIn and started doing segments about a little over a year ago. And what we want to do is give e-commerce data powers back to the people, right? The problem that I saw was that data science is not really accessible outside of tech giants and big brands. And they monopolize all the resources and talent around those areas, which makes getting access to the same data science algorithms that leverage data to understand your customer better really expensive and inaccessible. And that's what we're trying to solve. And how do we do that? So we basically turn we look at your data and we turn those insights into automated segmentation so that you can actually use them for customer marketing. And then it helps with CRO, retention, and CLV, and overall just understanding your customers better, right? Like if there's one score to summarize everything, I would say, it's just like a customer understanding score is the key to pretty much all of the marketing e-commerce that we're trying to do. Okay, so let's get into it. So first, we'll talk about the customer lifecycle, purchase likelihood. How can we talk about this in the simplest terms? Okay, so here's a very familiar flow, hopefully for everyone. Most people might recognize this. This is a welcome series flow from a popular ESP on Shopify. And it has basically said, oh, join those lists, send an email, wait a couple of days, send another email. And here's another one that is a little bit more complicated for a post-purchase flow. And you can see there's more splits based on conditions, a number of orders people have. And then there's, again, some baked in sort of waiting period between each email. And so really the first question is like, how many people actually looked at the defaults and try to change it, or at least try to optimize them? Right. And I think a lot of the time people aren't really paying attention to those defaults, and they just assume that's best practice. And so, those defaults stay everywhere. But my question to everyone is just, why are we waiting 7 days or 30 days? Why are we using fixed timings for all the stores and assuming that work, right? And the truth is every store has its own unique rhythm and customer purchase cycles. And so how are you going to be able to leverage the different customer buying behavior, products, and purchase cycle for your store that is native to your store, and build those timings into those automation flows so you can actually contextualize each of the campaigns and rise above status quo, right? And so we're going to go into that a little bit today. And so, yeah, so I kind of went ahead, but basically you want to find those dynamically timed purchase cycles and use that for your segmentation flows, and not, go do away with defaults. Like, I really don't think everybody should be using defaults. And a lot of times you'd be surprised, the timing might be a lot shorter. That's what we found. So here's what a typical growth funnel looks like, right? Most people might be familiar with the AARR model, or the pirate framework, some people call it. It starts with acquisition, activation, retention revenue, and referrals. So it looks very complicated on the surface, but I think for e-commerce, we can actually simplify it if we look at just the parts where we have already captured a customer's email, right? So let's simplify this for e-commerce. And just think in terms of basically, in terms of purchases, right? So if you align the last 3 R's, revenue, retention, and referral, you can basically think of that as just the one-timers, the repeaters, and the loyal customers with 3 or more purchases. And then the goal becomes super simple, right? The goal is just to move customers down the funnel by getting them to make 1 more repeat purchases each time. And all of your marketing efforts could be prioritized this way into moving people down the funnel. So you're probably thinking, okay, well, yeah, I mean, that, of course, but how are we actually going to do that, right? How do we move customers down the funnel? And so here's what a typical purchase likelihood for a customer looks like, right? So the goal is to target them or send them relevant messages when they're most engaged and open to messaging. And so if we could actually map out what a customer engagement looks like across time, it might look something like this, right? So starting on day 0, they just purchased, they just made their first order, right? Their happiness is high, their 100% likelihood to purchase. So that starts at 100. And then as a little bit of time goes by, that, the percentage drops a little bit. You send them an email, they click on it. Okay, we saw some engagement. So we think, okay, so they're still likely to purchase. That gets bumped up a little bit. Maybe another week goes by, they get an offering email, and then they actually use that offer to make a second purchase. Okay, everything resets back to 100. We're super happy that they're repurchased. And then maybe things goes downhill from there, right? So maybe a couple more weeks goes by, we don't hear from them. They have an email open with no clicks, and then another week goes by, maybe another email comes by, and they click, and then at this point, their purchase likelihood is very small, and that continues to kind of just dampen and through time, right? So that by let's say in this case by like week 26, probably this person is more or less just dormant, and you will never hear from them again. So the goal then is to how do we actually figure out the timing of the time it takes for a customer to lose interest, right? And that's like the top of mind question for everyone. And so I propose we can actually look at your existing customer data on repeat purchases to actually get the insights to help you understand these key inflection points around customer interest. So first thing is this, what I call the cumulative growth chart on repeat purchases, right? So if we actually look at all of your repeat purchases from all the customers and you aggregate that, it looks something like this, right? So I kind of just show you this chart without really explaining it. And so here's how we actually get that chart. So think of each customer's purchase in linear order time, right? So from sign up is time 0. And then let's say for customer A, they make a purchase 1 week after sign up or within the first week. And then they make a second purchase on week 5 since sign up. And then a third purchase, let's say 10 weeks since sign up. So what we can do here is then measure the differences between those repeat purchases. For example, between order 2 and 1 for the first customer is 4 weeks, and then it's 5 weeks between order 2 and 3. For customer B, it'll be, let's say 1 week between the first purchase, and then it took 7 weeks for them to make the third purchase. And then for customer C, there's no repeat purchase. They only purchased one time. So in this case, we don't count them. So if you actually aggregate all the different timings between the purchases across thousands of customers, you're going to get something like this, right? You're actually going to get this curve that tells you when are all of my repeat purchases happening, right? Weeks since the first order. And so then the goal becomes very simple at this point, which is let's figure out inflection points where the growth happens and then where there's no more growth, right? So those are the 2 inflection points in this curve. First period, we're going to call it the growth period, where most of the growth happens. And then you kind of have this sort of belly in the middle that we're calling the at-risk period, where there's still some growth happening, but it's less likely to get just organic growth. And the time, like it's actually timing to start ramping up your urgency around this period and with more offers before they actually churn. And then if they lapse the second inflection point, they most likely have churned and they may never come back. There's very little repeat purchases that we see in this period. And so then that is the whole goal, right? The goal is to figure out these inflection points based on purchase cycles to turn them into your precision marketing timing. So if that's the cumulative chart, what does that look like in absolute terms? So again, these are for illustration purposes. I'm not saying these are the exact cutoffs for your store, but what we've seen is that almost on the stores that we've observed, 50% of repeat orders tends to happen in the growth period. All right, 50% of all repeat orders happen in the growth period. That's more than half of the orders, right? And then you have this belly in the middle, which is the at-risk period, and sort of it tends to last between 8 to 12 weeks. And we see 35% of orders happening in the at-risk period. And then beyond that, you're lucky to get something like 13 to 15% of orders in the long tail, right? So pretty much from, let's say in this case, from week 9 to week 52. In the long tail of the weeks, you'll get maybe 10 to 15% of the orders happening in that time period. And so a lot of the key here is then to front load a lot of the marketing efforts according to these purchase inflection points, so that it can help you better guide your marketing efforts and contacts. All right. Again, if anything, you don't take away this, it's 50% of all repeat customers tends to purchase in the growth period, and depending on the cycle, but sometimes we see 3 weeks, sometimes we see 5 weeks, but usually it's a lot less than what people actually think. Okay, so next, we'll talk a little bit about the simple customer lifetime value and how do we actually calculate this. So if you actually Google CLV or customer lifetime value, you're going to get a ton of different answers, right? A lot of infographics, a lot of math equations, different ways of calculating it, and that just seems super confusing. So we're going to try to simplify it a little bit today. What is CLV? It's one sentence. It's just the total potential spend of a customer with in their relationship with your business, right? Why is it important? It's important to understand for profit reasons, for acquisition cost reasons, and just to understand like what is the actual potential spend with the customer, so you can actually measure how much you're willing to spend to acquire a customer minus all the shipping costs, the taxes, advertising, the marketing, the overhead, are you still going to be profitable? So on a unit economics basis, each customer, is that going to be profitable for you? Because you can't build a sustainable business off the back of like a super high acquisition cost, right? That's just going to going to go nowhere. The best part with CLV is what we are actually seeing is it tends to increase exponentially when people make more repeat purchases, right? So you're not just getting linear growth with each order, you're getting some kind of some parallel, some exponential growth when people actually stay longer and make more purchases with you. So here's what here's what a CLV looks like from Shopify. So they define this as the average value of a purchase at AOV multiplied the number of times the customer will buy, the frequency, and then the average tenure with your business. And so there's a few nuance to this, right? Because they actually don't say like, oh, we're going to look at what analysis period, right? Is it going to be 1 year? Is it going to be 6 months? Is it going to be 2 years? How do I actually know what period to use? What metrics do I calculate? What is included in the orders? So on and so forth. So let's try to simplify this, right? Like, let's see if we can actually use one graph to, again, simplify the term that people can take away from. Remember this chart again? So this is the linear chart of order purchases, right? So let's look at it this time in terms of the customer tenure of the order in the months that happened, right? So if somebody bought in the first month, then that's recorded as a order in the first month. If they buy in the fourth month, then it'll be the fourth month. If you again aggregate all of these customer purchase orders, you're going to get something that actually looks a lot like this. This is not the same chart as the cumulative growth chart. This is actually the revenue by tenure chart. And so you're going to have a lot of customers buying in the first month, right? And then it kind of slowly slopes down the longer away from sign up they are. So let me just say that again to make sure everybody get it, right? So we're going to look at people's orders in terms of their tenure with your account, with your business, right? So if they bought in the first month and the fourth month and 6 months, then you're going to record that accordingly in this chart. You put a 1 in the one column, put a 1 in the fourth column, and then put a 6 on month 6. And so when you then aggregate across thousands of customers, you're going to get a revenue curve that slopes down like this. So then the name of the game becomes very simple. The CLV is basically just the area under the revenue curve, right? The CLV is just the area under the revenue curve. What we want to do then is look at the revenue under each of these bars between 0 and 1 month, 1 and 2 months, and then divided by the number of customers who placed an order in that month. Okay, so then when you add up all of these bars, you're going to get a CLV value that will work generally pretty well for your store, and it's simpler. Then you don't have to define the analysis period because you're just like it stops when your order history stops. All right. And then for each customer, then you can look at where they are in their current tenure, and then you can then project how much revenue there could be potentially left in the future months. Okay, so perfect. So now we have a CLV. What are we going to do with this? I propose that we should then optimize our marketing efforts around the CLV, because we see that the loyal customers, people with 3 or more purchases, tends to have 7 times higher CLV than the customer with the one-timers and the people with no purchases, right? So 7 to 10 times higher CLV for loyals, which means when it comes to keeping them, preventing from churning or winning them back, you might be willing to do a lot more, right? Give up a lot more, or just a lot more personalization, rolling out the red carpet, or just kind of hand-holding white glove stuff just to make sure that they stay around, right? So again, like another example is if I call into Amazon for customer service, what are they going to look at? They're going to look at my previous return rate. They're going to look at how much money I've spent with them. That is really just trying to categorize me in terms of whether I'm higher in CLV or not, right? And then that will determine the outcome of the success of my claim for the most part. And so that's something that another example of using CLV to discriminate and make sure that the best customers are taken care of. Okay, so now that we've talked about sort of a lot about CLV, a lot about timing, how does this actually work? Can we actually see it in action? Right? What does that actually look like? So here's a chart that we use with segments in the app that shows you a bird's eye view of all of your customers segmented by their lifecycle purchases as well as their conversion risk. So what do I mean by that, right? So remember how we have CLV increasing by number of orders? So that goes down vertically, right? So the purchase funnel goes from pre-purchase to one-timers, two-timers, and then loyal customers, which increases exponentially in CLV. And then you have your conversion risk based on the order timing, the inflection points that we've defined previously, increasing the farther away from the last purchase to the right. And so what this allows you to do then is to look at your entire customer base across all the funnel and try to find areas to optimize, and you can prioritize by the upside that it's going to generate. So let's look at some examples, right? Again, so contextualize the marketing by CLV and conversion risk, and you can align your offers and messaging to the customer value and the stage that they're in. Okay, so let's look at the conversion stage, right? So here's where 50% of the orders are happening, remember? And so they just recently purchased. For new signups, then you want to make sure like they're actually still in that prime period who is likely to come to a purchase. Once they're past that time, they're typically gone, right? And that happens usually on day 2 and day 3. And so if you have any new welcome series for people who sign up with no purchase, it has to be like super fast. You got to hit them within the first 48 hours usually. And so for everybody else who's purchased, right, what a post-purchase funnel automation flow might look like in the beginning, what is the goal, right? The goal is to actually connect with these customers and make them feel like they want to buy again, right? So you want to celebrate a purchase, you want to build a community, show them people using the product, maintenance instructions, any type of content that adds value. Here. So like you're not trying to actually urge them to buy right away. You're not sending a lot of like discounting offers like that, just kind of because they just purchased, right? So they're like trying to find connection with you. And this is where a lot of the previous speakers talk about building a brand. Like this is what best time to do this is here, right? So generate a lot more organic repurchases without actually sacrificing a lot on margin. Once they didn't buy though, like once they don't buy at this convert stage, they enter this at-risk stage. At-risk stage, what we've seen is sort of the belly in the middle, typically lasts between 8 to 12 weeks. And it's really the last chance you can change someone's mind and induce a purchase, right? So the goal here is really to incentivize them with like best products, recent sales, new releases, things that you can do to increase volume and urgency and offer strength to make sure that they are actually basically trying to induce another repeat purchase while there's still time. And so this, if you remember, go back to like some of those default automation flows, it might suggest something like wait 45 days or wait 90 days. No, don't do that, right? Like you should actually look at their repeat purchase cycles and figure out when people are actually more likely to lose interest, and then time your offers around that, not the default 45 days or 90 days window. So thirdly, in the win back period, so there's actually 2 things you can actually do here, right? So once they sort of lapse the second inflection point, there's very little order repurchase that comes through organically or through marketing efforts in that time period, right? So that's the long tail from, let's say, week 13 to week 52. So out of that, 39 weeks, there's only like 10 to 15% of orders would have come in. So most likely people have churned. So what do you want to do, right? So you can, for the low value customers, it might be time to just move on, unless you have a very low cost, very cost efficient way, low CAC way to target the low value user who's never purchased. Otherwise, the best way is just to suppress them and move on, right? Like maybe you do another retargeting, but the chances are they've left. And so you can actually suppress these profiles in your ESP, and we've seen that with customers saving hundreds of dollars by just suppressing the low value users, because typically there's like 20 to 33% of like a customer's email list is just kind of email glut, like just people who have never purchased and never will purchase, or includes like spam emails from maybe like a .xyz or .ru. Now, on the flip side, for the high value customers, the people who have repeated purchase from you, especially the loyal customers with really high CLV, like you really want to retarget them, right? You want to retarget them as soon as possible as they enter sort of this win back stage via other channels. Maybe it's Facebook, SMS, Messenger. With all the speakers today, there's a short message today. These are great channels to actually retarget some of these customers who are super valuable to you, but have sort of lapsed in purchasing, right? And you may be willing to go to the extra mile just to get them back. And so the goal here is to clearly claim some value for the high value users, as well as sort of suppressing the low value users to make sure you're not kind of wasting money on sending them emails that they'll never open. And so that's, excuse me. So that's the extent of the talk today. I mean, I think there's quite a bit of information that I went through, but hopefully it was pretty clear and pretty simple. I tried to stay away from math as much as possible. And so I try to use chart and simple language for the conceptually, hopefully everybody can take this away and start going back and looking at their marketing automation flows and find areas to optimize.
I'm pulling up your YouTube page. I want to make sure that people have access to that. John, this is amazing stuff, and I think it's something that not a lot of people are talking about. I just there's so much more opportunity to use data to change our marketing strategy. And like you said in the beginning, you said most people just went with the default flows. That's where we're all at. Like e-commerce today is it's what's it called? Choice design. Klaviyo designed flows for us. So low barrier to entry, we use the generic flows. And our next speaker, Kurt Elster, he works with people to improve these things and improve conversion rate a lot. But your tool makes it so easy. Kurt could be dangerously out of a job, not really out of a job, but it makes it so tangible for any marketer to be able to find those insights. And it really, to me, is like really, really tangible what you've been able to do and just in a few minutes say here. If you guys kind of picked up what he's saying, SMS costs so much per text message. If you know that they're low value target, which his tool automatically creates the segments for you, and you can push them into email and other channels probably soon, or just export to CSV, whatever you need to do, right? And you can suppress these. You'll increase your margin. If you're doing, a few $1 million a year and you've got this long tail of win backs and the strategy for it, you're wasting some money in there. And if you can cut those costs by $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, that is the same as generating revenue because you are ROI negative with a certain percentage of your customers, your churn customers, et cetera. And people forget that. We want to market to the people that want to buy from us and will buy from us in a way that makes both of us money, them happy with the value and us happy with the profit margin. So what I believe your tool allows us to do is focus more on the revenue generators and push away the people that have kind of already told us in one way or another, not really or no.
Yeah, exactly. We deploy machine learning as well as like RFM framework to look at people's purchase behavior, like recency, their average spend, as well as number of times they've purchased. And this is all sort of I think the coolest part is we bake in this data insights into the segmentations that you can directly plug and play, right? I think a lot of times people miss the point. It's like we didn't. It's not just insights tool. Like we actually bake those insights into the segments that we create, so that you can actually just take it and go and plug. And so you can skip sort of weeks of segmentation exercises, trying to figure out like the best timing, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and in a store that I'm managing right now, I plugged in segments, and within a few hours or less, it identified like 5,500 email addresses that essentially had been long churned. Were
Right.
never going to convert for us. They haven't opened an email. They haven't clicked on an email in 6 months. They purchased a really long time ago, like years ago, which I think is standard, for any e-commerce store that's not a subscription. You're going to have these people that have passed through your business and they're done. And I identified them and I was able to move down 2 tiers in Klaviyo pricing. So I saved myself a lot in Klaviyo, just like instant savings. So I recommend to everyone checking out segments. Not just the savings in my cost per contact in Klaviyo, but 100 other things you could do. John was kind enough to walk me through the process. I'm sure he can help you with the demo. He also has an amazing YouTube channel that we just plugged here in chat, where he goes through data analytics and that side of your business. I think that, some marketers might be intimidated by this, but I think that you need to learn these things. And John, you're doing a great job of explaining to the everyday marketer how to use data a lot better. So I think you're helping us bridge that gap. So thank you.
Perfect, no problem. Yeah, this is my passion really is just to I really wake up every day and think about how there's so much opportunity with data science and with e-commerce, and people are not leveraging it effectively, and it drives me crazy. And so with the YouTube channel is another way for me to sort of reach, I guess, more audience, the people who are interested in sort of learning more about what's possible, and then optimize to run a more profitable business.
Yeah, I love it. And I think this is going to be one of those sessions that people want to watch a few times over again so that they can really understand
Not too many times.
How to make the changes.
Yeah, totally. Thank you.
Awesome. John, thanks for coming on, and we will talk to you later. Guys, you should see here in chat link to segments. Let me put it in there one more time. Download, install, go through the trial process, see the insights on your store. I highly recommend checking out this tool. All right, Kurt, are you ready?
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Derek.
Bye, John.